She stood right there at the end of my driveway, arms folded like she was guarding the gates of heaven. I had just stepped out of my Rolls-Royce, engine still humming, when her voice cut through the morning air like a knife. "You need to tell me whose car that is," she barked. "There's no way you can afford that. Not at your age." I blinked, not because I was confused, but because I was trying really hard not to laugh. I was 21, yeah. Black. Sure. But what Karen didn't know, standing there in her dusty pink sweater and HOA badge that looked like it came from a toy store, was that the car was mine, bought and paid for. "That's my car," I said, simply locking it with a beep. She took a step closer like she was about to sniff it. "There's no way. I've lived here 15 years and never seen you. This is a family neighborhood, not some rap video." That part stung. She said it loud, too, like she wanted the neighbors to hear. I saw a curtain shift across the street. "I just moved in," I said, keeping my cool. "House 137. Her eyes narrowed. "That house is not yours. It's listed under the HOA. You can't just walk into a foreclosed property and claim it. I'm calling the cops." She actually pulled out her phone and started dialing, like that would scare me. I sighed and pulled out my key fob. Pressed. The unlock. Doors blinked. "You think I stole a house and a Rolls-Royce?" She didn't even look embarrassed. "I think you better stay right there," she snapped. "Police need to see this. You're probably one of those scammers, or worse." At that moment, I realized this wasn't about a car or a house. It was about control. She couldn't handle that I had something she didn't expect me to have. But she'd made a mistake. A big one. Because what Karen didn't know was who I really was. And she was about to find out. "I didn't steal the car," I said, quietly. "But I do own this street." The police pulled up 5 minutes later, sirens off, lights flashing low, like they were sneaking up on a crime that hadn't even happened yet. Karen waved them over like she was flagging down a taxi, her face all puffed with fake concern. "That's him!" she shouted, pointing like I'd just robbed a bank. "That's the guy. He stole that car. He's squatting in house 137. I want him off this street." The two officers stepped out. One was older, gray at the temples. The other looked barely out of the academy. Both had that look, cautious, tense, unsure if this was just another bored suburban complaint or something else. I stood still, hands out, calm. "Sir," the older officer said, "we got a report of trespassing and a possible stolen vehicle." Karen chimed in before I could speak. "It's a Rolls-Royce, officer. Do you know how much those cost? He can't possibly—" The younger cop cut her off. "Ma'am, we'll handle it." I looked at them. "I have ID. The car is registered in my name. I own house 137. Want me to prove it?" Karen scoffed. "Don't fall for his act. I saw the house listed in foreclosure 2 months ago. He probably faked documents. These people know how to game the system." The older officer raised a brow at that. "These people?" Karen stuttered. I just meant, look at the situation. He doesn't belong here." I handed over my ID and pink slip from the glove box. Then I pulled out a thick folder from the passenger seat, deed to the house, purchase contract, proof of wire transfer. I didn't even flinch. The older cop scanned everything, his face shifting slowly from suspicion to something else. Respect, maybe, or guilt. "You're the registered owner of both the car and the property," he said finally. "This checks? Out!" Karen's face turned crimson. "That can't be right. I put a lien on that house. The HOA has rights." I smiled for the first time. "Funny thing about that, there is no active HOA here. It was dissolved 2 years ago, but you knew that already, didn't you?" Karen froze. The officer turned to her. "Ma'am, did you put any notices or claims on this man's door?" Karen looked around, her eyes darting like a cornered animal. "I was just trying to keep the neighborhood safe." I reached into the folder again. This time I pulled out a photo, taken from a security camera above my door. Karen, with a clipboard, pinning a fake HOA violation to my front window. The younger cop stared at it, then at her. "You're not on any HOA board," he said slowly. "You impersonated an authority. That's a crime." Karen opened her mouth, then closed it again. "I told you," I said quietly. "You picked the wrong guy." Karen's hands started to shake. She tried to laugh it off, but it came out like a cough. "This is ridiculous. I'm just trying to protect property values. This kind of behavior, flashy cars, random people, it brings down the whole street." The older cop didn't flinch. "Ma'am, step over here." She backed up. "Wait, you're not seriously listening to him, are you? I'm a founding member of this community. I've lived here since before these houses were even finished." "I'm aware," the officer said, "but that doesn't give you the right to fake legal authority or file false reports." I leaned against the rolls, arms crossed. Watching her fall apart was almost too satisfying. But I wasn't done. "You want to talk about property? Values?" I asked. "Let's talk about the time you slashed my tires the night I moved in, or when you had my moving truck accidentally towed for blocking traffic, even though it was in my own driveway." Karen's eyes widened. "You have footage of that?" the younger officer asked. I nodded slowly. "Everything's recorded. Motion sensors, front yard, driveway, whole place is wired. I figured moving in here, I might need it." The older cop gave Karen a long, slow look. "Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to come with us." She gasped. "For what? He's making all this up." "No," I said calmly. "You are, and I've got more than footage." I pulled out one more paper from the folder, an email printed. Out, sent from the actual HOA legal office. It clearly stated the organization had been dissolved, and anyone claiming otherwise was engaging in fraud. Karen's mouth fell open. "You've been threatening people on this street for months," I said. "You even fined my neighbor $300 for having their porch light too bright." The cops looked at each other, then back at her. Karen tried to bolt, but the older cop caught her arm, gently but firm. She flailed like a toddler. "Caught stealing candy. I was just trying to maintain standards," she cried. "People like him ruin everything." That was the moment the entire situation changed, because the neighbors started to come outside. First one, then another, then 3 more. People I hadn't even met yet. They weren't yelling, just watching, silently. One of them, a middle-aged dad with a baby monitor clipped to his belt, spoke up. "She fined me last month for having a flag up past 9 p.m. Another woman added, "She threatened to report me because my son plays basketball too loud." The crowd grew. And Karen? She shrank. "Turns out," I said quietly, "you've been running a little fake empire here, but it ends today." Karen was quiet now. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that only comes from realizing the curtain's been pulled back and there's no more bluffing left. She looked at the growing crowd like someone might still come to her defense. But they didn't. Not one neighbor stepped forward. Instead, a woman holding a toddler on her hip said, "She told me my kids' toys made the lawn look ghetto. I cried for 2 days." The younger cop turned to Karen again. "Ma'am, we're going to need to check if you've been issuing fake citations, trespassing, or threatening residents." Karen's voice came out in a whisper. "I was just keeping the place in order." But the older officer was already speaking into his radio, asking for another unit. I stayed silent. There was no need to gloat. Not yet. But then something happened that flipped everything on its head. From down the street, a black SUV came rolling up. Tinted windows, clean, controlled. It stopped right at the curb next to my Rolls-Royce. The door opened, and out stepped my sister. Black blazer. Hair tied back, calm and sharp. Karen squinted at her. "And who are you supposed to be? Another one of his friends?" My sister smiled without warmth. "I'm the attorney on title for this property, and I'm also representing 2 other homeowners on this street Karen has harassed. Demai. Officers turned toward her. She handed over a thick envelope. This includes documented false notices, forged HOA warnings, and 1 audio recording where she admits to faking board meetings. Karen's face drained of color. The older cop raised his eyebrows. That true? My sister nodded. I've spent the last 3 weeks gathering everything. We knew she'd try something the moment she saw my brother move in. Karen took 1 shaky step back. You people set me up. No, my sister said calmly. You set yourself up. We just watched you do it. And then, like it was nothing, she added, by the way, a lawsuit's been filed. You'll get the papers soon. Karen's knees actually buckled. She had to hold onto the hood of the cop car to steady herself. She looked at me, at the neighbors, at the cops. And finally, she whispered the only thing she had left. This isn't over. But even she didn't believe it. Oh, I said, meeting her eyes, it's way over.